Welcome to Home Dad Chat, brought to you by the National At-Home Dad Network. My name is Brock,
My name is Danny.
and we are here to talk about life as stay-at-home dads. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show.
No, I don't want much. I even love handmade crafts made of macaroni. Come on now, you should know me. Times I might eat too much. No worry about my weight, got the dad bod rocking on me. Sketches on my feet, cargo shorts look good on me. I'm a dad, that's what I do.
Hey, everybody, it's just Danny tonight. Brock, unfortunately, has had a death in his family. His grandfather has passed away, so we are missing him and thinking about him tonight. He is very unhappy, and I'm very unhappy for him that he missed this show because of part of our Geeking Out series tonight. We're talking about cigars, and I don't know anybody that knows me doesn't know I love smoking cigars. I don't have a lot of time for it, but it's always what I want to do and always what I'm happy to talk about. So we have one of our dads coming in with us tonight that is a professional, I would say, cigar smoker. This is definitely one of the most knowledgeable people that I've heard from in a long time, and has definitely had a lot of exposure in the industry with other cigar makers on his podcast. So everybody would like you to introduce you, Sergio Rosario. How you doing,
Hello,
Sergio?
hello. I am doing great. I am happy to be here. I think I want to say my condolences to Brock. Who smoked a cigar today and honor his grandfather's name. That's one of the parts in the cigar where great cigar makers say when you smoke a cigar, the smoke goes to heaven. And it honors even though the people that came before us used it for different purposes, but it's still something that we do, and we do to celebrate life. We do to also commemorate when somebody passes to a better life. And so the cigar today will be in that honor of that person that passed away. So the cigar always has a purpose.
Hear, hear. I love that. I love that thought. We have a lot of friends that they are Native American, and they're Tuskegee or Cherokee, which I'm in Georgia. So there's a lot of Cherokee or quarter Cherokee. There's a lot of people that have a little Cherokee blood in them. And it's always been that tobacco was much more than just what a cigarette brought you. Tobacco is always a sacred thing, and it's more of, like you said, offering that, whether you call it a prayer or a meditation or just your, good intentions in that smoke and going up to wherever you would consider that would go. Personally, I'd say heaven, but whatever a person's thoughts are to where that goes. So I love that you brought that up. So first off, we'll talk about the dad stuff. Tell me, how many kids do you have? How old are they? And how long have you been an at-home dad?
I have a 4-year-old named Stella. She is, my everything. I've been a stay-at-home dad for 3 years. Now I am transitioning back into the workforce, so I am still a stay-at-home dad. But you add on 2 part-time jobs on the on top of that, and that makes me working, I don't know, 2 part-time stay-at-home dads. I don't know how to call that. It's just like a lot more work. It's possible for those of you who are listening. I think one of the things that pandemic has brought is that awareness that working remote is possible. We have the tools, and if companies didn't have the tools, they had to make them available to employees. And a lot of people are changing kind of like the way they process and they thought about remote work. And now that's a possibility for a stay-at-home dad. So I felt like I gained something during this pandemic. And when there was 2 companies that were actually looking for somebody, and they immediately thought of me because they knew I was a stay-at-home dad. So they wanted to offer me the opportunity. And that for me, my brother, is a gain. That is something that it's adding to our community. And I love it. I just the thought that, they immediately thought of a stay-at-home dad, that for me was enough to say yes.
Yeah, that is great. That is wonderful. And it is a growing community. I'll say that's one of the things that I find from the National At-Home Dad Network specifically, but in a lot of areas where being an at-home dad is much more common than it was, say, even 2-3 years ago. I don't think there's much good that comes out of the pandemic, but I think that's one of those things. And I love too that brands are starting to look at dads as a little more valuable, realizing what we bring to the table. Even if we're not parenting the same way as moms, we're still parenting. We still love our kids, and we're still doing those things for them that they really need, whatever it might be. And I'll say too, even having a job, 2 part-time jobs, multiple part-time jobs, I think once you've been an at-home dad, you're probably always be an at-home dad. You'll always be
Oh
welcome, at
yes.
least with us. You just there's something about it.
Oh, and there's no plans to change that. I think, when my child starts going to school in August, I am going to be the dad that's there and that's present, and
Nice.
for every activity. So that is, once you're a stay-at-home dad, that is something that you get out of being a stay-at-home, and prepares you for when they make the transition into school. Then we make the transition as fathers to support them in their education and in their activities in school. So it doesn't mean that, because we might find a job where it's part-time or full-time, we're going to be away. I think we're going to be the most involved parents in that group. And for me, that's something that I always thought, and thought that, the stay-at-home dad part, it was a transition for when she attends school, and then I'm going to be the school dad or lunch dad, and then I'm going to be there until God knows when. My wife says when my daughter goes to school, she's probably going to be retiring from the U.S. Army, and she said we'll follow her anywhere. I'm like, I don't know about that. I don't want to be that dad who's like following the kid around and maybe like a trailer or a camper or something, but
Yeah,
we'll probably visit.
yeah, at least be involved, I'm sure. I think that's one of the things too about being an at-home dad, or just being the primary caretaker in any way, is you certainly have a greater involvement, and that lasts, I think, a lifetime. I've talked to some of the we call them the OG dads that have been doing it they've got kids in college, and I'm thinking, man, that's a long time to be an at-home parent. But they still have that relationship that's just so much closer, I think, than it could have been otherwise.
Oh yeah. And that's the perfect example for some of us that have younger kids. I think the relationship between those OGs and the new ones, there always has to be a space like this podcast, like the National Stay at Home Dad community, which fosters that space for new fathers and the more veteran dads to come together and learn from each other and see what each other has to bring to the table. I think any community, actually, whether it's a stay-at-home dad community or whether it's like a hobby community where, let's say, it's a card club, there's always that need for exchange of ideas and experiences, and that's what makes a community thrive.
I agree 100%. So talking about communities, let's talk about the cigar community. I have been waiting basically to talk to you about this, because I'm always excited about smoking, because I shouldn't say excited about smoking, because I've never really been a cigarette smoker. And I think that's one thing that I found that people have kind of a bad idea about cigars. The difference between a cigar and a cigarette is huge. A cigar is a commitment. I mean, you're not gonna just light one up, smoke it for a minute, and then throw it down and walk out. Or you're not gonna do it when you're stressed, but you're not gonna do it to try to cure your stress. Or cigar is a time to sit down, maybe have a nice drink, listen to good music, and just enjoy both the cigar itself, but then the people around you, which is a big part of it.
Yeah, I call it mental health time. I think I've had different experiences smoking cigars. One of the most enjoyable ones, it's when I'm by myself. It gives me time and allows me time to think where I came from, what I'm doing right now, and where I'm headed in life, personal projects, involved as a father too in my daughter's life. So it gives me time to think, and time that when you commit to a cigar, you at least, if you have a smaller cigar, you're going to need from 45 minutes. If you have a big cigar, 2 hours and a half.
Yeah.
So there's always time, and that during that time, you pour yourself a drink, or whether it's a sparkling water or something that you want to, some nice cold cuts of meat or cheese or fruits or nuts, whatever, and you commit to it. And I think that time right there, where also people around you know that they have to allow you time to finish your cigar, kind of like people respect that a lot. I don't know if you noticed that, where
Yeah.
people are like, yeah, you
Yeah.
light up a cigar and they're like, let him have his time. He's
Yeah.
having his cigars. So you're like, I might need some more of that. So it's just a perception of time, relaxation, enjoying the moment, being present, and you can use it for whatever you want. What I always ask people to do is, if you have a cigar, always commit some time to it so you can make the smoking experience a lot more pleasant. And another thing that you mentioned was the perception between smoking cigarettes and smoking cigars.
Hmm.
I think there's still kind of a stigma. There's still, because I think people use the verb smoking into something that, they always, when you talk about smoking, people, what comes in mind is smoking cigarettes. And of course, we come from a culture that people even were allowed to smoke a cigarette in a plane. I mean,
Yeah, I
can you
can't
imagine
imagine.
that?
No, there's just someone lit up on a plane right now with a cigarette. Everybody was like, "What? No, we're throwing him out. There, he's out. This can't happen."
Probably I mean, if we were there back then, we probably ended up smoking, because, can you imagine everybody lighting cigarettes in an airplane? I mean, that must have been crazy. I still see some pictures around, and
Yeah, it's a
I
different
can't
world.
believe it.
A different
Yeah.
world for sure.
So
For
that
sure.
that stigma is present, and what we want to do is try to educate the community about the process that takes to make a cigar. What goes into a cigar is a totally natural process that's been going around for thousands of years. So what you get if you smoke a premium cigar, which is a premium cigar is defined as a long leaf cigar. There's no cut fillers into it, rolled into a vitola, which is the word for cigar. Vitola is the size and shape. So vitola, I have a Lancero right here with me, and I can say, well, I have another vitola here, and I can pull out, for example, this Salomon right
Yes.
here. So, different vitolas, it's the
Hmm.
different shapes and sizes. And, I think that's something that with education and then, now something as easy as listening to this podcast, you can, have a different mindset. So, cigars, the way they are grown, they say it takes about 200 to 300 hands from the beginning that the process starts to
Wow.
the moment that the process ends. So it takes a lot of people. It feeds a lot of people. It's
Hmm.
cultural for some people like me. I was born and raised in Puerto Rico. My grandfather Ismael, his mom, my great grandmother, used to roll cigars and give it to him when he was a kid. So he would go to the town and sell it, so they can make some money to
Wow.
feed all of his 11 brothers and
Hmm.
sisters. So it was a way of life, and it still is now. And there's always much more to something that what we might know. So in this case, I like to raise awareness of what it
Hmm.
means to some people.
Yeah, I think that's amazing, especially too having, like you said, that direct personal history to it, and the number of people, the times I've grown tobacco here, just to see how it would work, basically, and just I don't know, maybe 20 plants. It wasn't anything. I wasn't trying to do anything with it, but it was a big job, and it was well worth it. It was good stuff for what I got out of it. But it was
It's a
amazing to
beautiful
me. When I was like,
plant.
it
It's
really
a
is, and
yeah,
it's like eight
beautiful.
8 feet tall or so. And I went, wow, either I did really well or those just do that. And my dad said, no, they just do that. But sure, you do great, kid. You did great. But so how long then have you been smoking cigars?
Wow, let me see. I think I started smoking when I was about 16 years of age.
Hmm.
I there's always that time where you bond to a certain family member or friend, and I was helping my grandfather building his house. He retired back then. He was building his house, so he took me a weekend to help him. I was a 16, 15-year-old with I was 6'2", around 200 pounds, a
Yeah.
big, strong guy. And I was, I could mix a lot of cement and,
Right.
and
Yeah.
help
Yeah.
out with a lot of bricks. So he took me, and his brother used to, he's still alive. So he still rolls his own cigars with tobacco that he grows. And
That's awesome.
that's when he's like, hey, you know what? You're a man. You're 16. Come over here,
It's
have a
time.
drink, and have a cigar. And he
Oh,
was
wow.
with his guitar. It was like a movie scene, but
Right. Right. Yeah.
it's what's normal for them.
Hmm.
Pull out his guitar, pull out some moonshine, and lit up a cigar. And it was like kind of like a ritual thing. And I always
Yeah.
appreciate that moment, because I felt like it was a bond that I created maybe with my grandfather's family,
Hmm.
that if it hadn't been for music or cigars, I probably would never have been,
Yeah.
had that bond or relate to them as something that it means something to me, and from them I got the love for the cigars and the love for music. So,
Hmm.
I'm also a professional musician, and I think it's part of my culture, the Afro-Caribbean culture,
Hmm.
and the Caribbean culture, which I'm from Puerto Rico. It's an island. Music is big. Drums are big. Hand drums are big. I play a lot of salsa, Afro Puerto Rican, Afro Cuban music, and then cigars is
Awesome.
something that's like directly related to that.
Hmm.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah. I will say mine, I've only been smoking about 20 years, maybe. So, but I was later, it was in my 30s before I had my
Yeah.
first one. Now, my first one didn't count. I had it in New Orleans after a long week of physical training and stuff. And I think it was the first time I ever got drunk. And so there was a cigar there, but all I knew later was like, well, I really want to try that again. But it took me probably 6 months before I got up the courage, honestly, to go into a local cigar shop. I'm a
Oh
pretty
yeah.
confident person, right? But I have no idea. And honestly, I don't know how much I want to pay or how much I should pay. And, I'm a fairly pragmatic person. I don't like to pay any more than I have to for anything. But understanding the quality of it, I didn't know what to do, where to go, how to get it.
Yeah.
So going from there, what are your thoughts on that? What are your suggestions about somebody that's in that position that wants to go try a good cigar? Any that you would recommend, or kind of what they should do to find a good lounge to go to?
Yeah, so I'm always big on supporting the local brick and mortar store.
Hmm.
You always go first to your local store. Most of them have a history of, couple of generations already. So these stores are feeding, mouths, and they're feeding different people, and they're giving back to the community. So I always encourage everyone that has that, kind of feeling inside them, that I want to go to a local store, to try your local store first.
Hmm.
Unfortunately, cigars is something that, whenever we decide to break the ice, is whenever we're somewhere that's not our local community, that's like on vacation or on a weekend getaway.
Yeah.
So there's the chances of visiting a place that's more touristy oriented towards a lot of people who are in the area for vacation. We're prone to that. So sometimes those stores are not the best stores to visit, because they will either have a product that's not, you're not getting the best for your money. However, if you have the feeling of, hey, I would like to visit my own store, or local store, I would like to sit down, you have to have a couple of things in mind. How much time do you have? Usually a visit to a cigar store takes from 2 to 3 hours, right? 2 to 3 hours. If you are going to enjoy a drink, I would say give yourself enough time, 2 to 3 hours. And then we want to visit the store not when it's, you know a moment that is going to be super busy, so you don't want to go on peak, like let's say Saturday at 3. We want to be able to go maybe like a Saturday, if it's our first time, at noon, at 1, and be able to have the person in the cigar lounge, the tobacconist, be able to talk to you and ask them, hey, and tell them as soon as you walk through that door, hey, it's my first time, I want
Hmm.
to be able to enjoy a cigar. I would like something that, and that's where I make a pause, because it's very important to identify a few things. Do I want the cigar? Do I want to enjoy the cigar by itself, or do I have a favorite drink that I would like to pair that cigar with. So are we smoking so that what is the purpose of the smoke? Is it to enjoy the cigar, or is it to enjoy the liquor or the spirit and pair it with a cigar? So that's a question you got to ask yourself. If you are, let's say, a whiskey or scotch drinker, then I suggest that for the first time you pick your favorite scotch. If you have a store that sells liquor, you say, I'm going to have, for example, a Macallan 15. Macallan 15 is a very citrusy scotch. And you can probably the tobacconist or the store owner or store manager is going to give you options to pair with that bourbon or that whiskey or that cognac or rum or beer. So, always have in mind that what is the purpose of the smoke. If you want to go and have a smoke by itself, then try to identify how you are feeling. How are you feeling that day? Always go with a full stomach. That's another thing.
Good
Myself,
advice. Good
yes.
advice.
What is mild for some people may be full strength for others. And I have found myself at the beginning in a lounge calling my wife and say, I'm going to need another half an hour because I'm drinking a soda just because this cigar kicked my butt and
Right.
I can't drive like this. But I'm going to tell you about a solution, later on for when you get that buzz. It's just a matter of taking a little bit of sugar and put it in the tongue for about 30 seconds, and the sugar takes care of it. Some people open up a Coke, or some people
Wow.
chew on a candy, and it will take the effect in a matter of a minute or two. So if you ever feeling buzzed about a cigar, you're feeling dizzy, just go and grab some sugar. Um, but
Good to know.
the very important thing for beginners or for seasoned veterans is to determine, why are you smoking? Why am I smoking today, and how am I feeling? Not every day is a day for steak, or not every day is a day for for lobster. So even though we feel fancy when we are going to a lounge, it doesn't mean that we need to smoke fancy every time we are in the lounge.
That's some great tips. I got to tell you, especially about the eating first. I learned that one. But,
Oh yeah.
And I definitely am going to try the sugar. I'm going to have some ready for the next time. I have a couple of cigars that I like, and my personal favorite, if I have, again, all the time I need, I'm going to have a little bit of scotch. I'm going to have, an hour or two, and it's late in the day, because I will never smoke it earlier in the day, because I just will be I'll be too high, to be honest. I mean, I'll be just brain dead. I don't know what it does to me, but a triple Maduro Camacho, and just to sit and just let it do all the things. But then I always get that slightly buzzed feeling of, okay, I'm glad I'm not driving. I'm not going anywhere. And the first time I had one, the guy, he said, well, this is probably what you want. And he was absolutely right. But he said, how much time do you have? And I thought, well, I don't have to go anywhere. And he said, could you be here for, 3 or 4 hours if you needed to? And I went, well, I mean, yeah, we're going to watch some movies. What are we doing? And he said, yep, we're going to watch a movie. And at the end of the movie, you'll have finished that, and you probably won't want to walk. You just want to sit here, and just let that buzz just fade away. So I love that tip.
Oh,
though. I'm definitely going to try it. So,
but that cigar is a triple Maduro cigar. That cigar is full strength, full body. So we're talking about even a cigar that I do have sometimes, but again, you need to have that time to smoke it, and then the feeling, the buzz afterwards, you need some time to recover from that.
You do.
So
you really do.
If you're trying to get away from this planet for a bit, that's the cigar I go with. That that's a cigar that has some very special qualities, and of course the people who smoke it are people who are looking for those qualities, and usually it's full strength, full flavor, or extra full flavor, like I say. And it's just a cigar especially made for that. But there's some good cigars. I think in Cigars Podcast soon we're going to be having an episode that's the English version of one that we got. It was 8 best cigars under $8. We did it in Spanish, and it was a total hit. I
Good.
find myself
Because I can't speak. I speak maintenance man Spanish. Spanish is awful. It's the worst. And I literally learned it doing maintenance work in apartments. And you've got on like eight cigars. That's great. And I went, oh, I'm not gonna remember any of this. I can't do anything. I can't even get hello.
I mean,
so I'm glad you're doing it. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's very important for people to know that we do have a bilingual podcast, because usually there's so many of them. You can search cigar podcast. Mine is named Cigars Podcast. I feel that was like the best generic name ever. When people are Googling cigar podcast, of course we're going to show up. So, but there's a lot of them. I would say dozens of them, if not hundreds.
Mm-hmm.
And you can always try to find one, and all of them have something that's, very useful information. I think I take a lot of pride now in being able to respect people's effort, time, and money. When you make minimum wage and you say, well, this cigar is $8 or it's $15. Well, you have to work 2 hours of your life to be able to smoke that cigar.
Yeah.
So I take a lot of pride in finding good cigars that might not break, the bank. And there are a lot of good cigars out there. They might not be the ones trending, but they are very good cigars. And I take a lot of pride in having and making those finds. And of course, I can smoke something like, for example, this cigar is $28, Andalusian Bull by La Flor Dominicana. Ooh. Very hard to get. People are reselling it for about $60.
Yeah, that's more what I was thinking. Twice what you said was what I was thinking. So yeah.
So this cigar is Cohiba Talisman 2011. This is a Cuban. This cigar will go for about $110.
Wow.
So, you have an Opus X Angel's Share. This is out of the Opus X line, one of the most sought after cigars. A regular Opus, it's about from $18 to $25, depending on the state that you live. For those people in Pennsylvania and Florida, you are the lucky ones. You get to pay no taxes on cigars, and you get the best selection. But there's a cigar for everyone. So that's what so this cigar is a great cigar. I'm going to show it to you very quick. It's a Man of War Reconquista by AJ Fernandez. AJ Fernandez is one of the best known cigar blenders and makers of our times. In Nicaraguan cigar, this is a Perfecto, and it's box press. You can see it looks like a box. They put a press on top. And this cigar is about $7. And look how beautiful it looks.
Yes,
very similar cigar to that Camacho Triple Maduro that you have. Very, very strong in body and flavor. And this will cost you about $7. So, I show one that was about $100, and I show another one that's about $7. And that is what you want to be able to kind of like decide on. If it's a special date, then I suggest you buy a nice cigar and something that you feel comfortable with your pocket, and you might want to go a little bit, further and say, hey, I want to smoke this one because it's my birthday, it's my anniversary, or I got a job promotion. But if there's a regular Saturday or Friday night and you just want to light something up, there's those options too. So smoking cigars should not be expensive.
I agree. It definitely doesn't have to be. I do appreciate a more expensive cigar. I wish I could say they're all the same to me. But I do like it, and I will run a lot of the ones that I do are probably only $10 to $12. I don't usually go crazy because I know I'm not going to have the time. I'm not going to every single time know that absolutely I get the hour and a half I need to really enjoy this. But those times when I can, it's my father-in-law will not anytime recently, of course, but would come down. He lives in Minnesota, and he'd say, all right, I got 2 cigars and a bottle of scotch. Let's go out and sit by the campfire and solve the world's problems. And that's what we do. We just go out and we'd sit and we'd take all the time we wanted, and we would just talk about all the stuff going on with his life or his business, his family, my family, our kids, his grandkids, that is, and then just enjoy that entire time. And it's one of the most just refreshing, relaxing, balancing things I think that I can do. I talk a lot about the benefits of self-care for at-home dads, especially at-home parents in general. the need to take care of yourself is very, very important. And honestly, I always put having a time for a cigar into that mix. So,
Oh yeah, and you know what? I would like for us to take some initiative and try to do a cigar night with all the dads that are listening. Spring is here. It's getting
mhm.
warmer, so let's try to pick one day, maybe by the end of April, and get together,
All right.
smoke a cigar, and we'll say, bring your favorite spirit and your favorite cigar, and we'll go over it. And we can have some fun conversations, and people can relate to that experience virtually, and maybe they will go the next step and visit their local lounge, and they will definitely get the same or better quality experience out of visiting your local lounge. Last Saturday, I was in my local lounge and I met a 90-year-old veteran who was there because he was a pipe smoker, and they were selling some special pipes. The pipe maker was in the store, and then he smoked a pipe, and then he ended up having a cigar and a very nice conversation with us. And my buddy, he's army veteran, so they talked about army stuff, and then we talk about music because the guy was also a musician, and we talked to him for about like an hour and a half, and it was
Nice.
just great to be able to talk to a stranger and open up and be able to listen to wise words of a 90-year-old man who has seen enough to be able to tell
Yeah.
us his story. And you usually get people like that. You usually get the quiet person at the lounge. You get people who are very loud. It's always good. I'm going to say this. I haven't said this before. Now I just realized to pick where to sit in the lounge. If you sit in the main area, you
Okay.
always have to expect a conversation.
Yeah.
If you sit at the bar, you're always going to expect a conversation. If you sit at a corner in a single share, then people will kind of like get the message.
Mhm.
So there are common areas in the lounge. There's single seating areas. There's the bar, etc. So you always have to pick based on your mood. That's where you pick. If you sit in front of the TV and there's a football game, you have to be expected to be interrupted,
Yeah.
and there's going to be a lot of smoke around you. You're probably going to smoke your cigar and somebody else's.
That's right. You
But
got tasting too. That's right.
yeah, but it's part of it. So it's we got to be smart where we sit when we're in the lounge.
And one last thing, because we're going to run late here, and Brock's going to yell at me for like, why'd you let him go so long? I don't know, man. I swear it was only him. I wasn't talking, but Brock always tells me I talk too much, and I do. But I really want to put on that one point. And you're sitting, like you said, talking with the 90-year-old veteran, and your friend talking with him as well. I think smoking a cigar, especially in a lounge, is a great equalizer. And it's like anybody that's in there, no matter how old, how young, and I want to put a point on what gender they are, it doesn't matter. If you're in there smoking cigars, kind of the rules of the road, as it were, for cigar lounges, I think everybody's equal. We're all sitting here doing the same thing. We're having this I will say brotherhood, because that's the word that fits with me as a man and as a dad, but that community that you build. And I know you've talked about that previously on your podcast about developing that. I think the National at Home Dad Network is really big about the community and the mentorship that they do. And I'd like for just to finish us off, if you would talk a little bit about bringing that next generation in, the younger men that are smoking, that are maybe in their 20s or so, or even, a little younger. Let's say, I don't want to tell anybody underage to smoke or whatever, but this is the reality of it. But bringing that in and getting that next generation and that community and fellowship.
Yeah,
So,
of course. I mean, by law, you have to be over 21 to smoke.
mhm.
We all have different experiences at home or how we were raised. So, that's every dad with for themselves. But I think, to be able to be a part of a community, of course, you need to be over the age. You need to be able to understand that in a lounge, we are all equal. We are there for the pleasure of smoking, seeking a time outside of home that's, our own time. And that's whether it's to read a book, to listen to a podcast, listen to some music, have a drink, just look up at the ceiling and think about all the blessings and all the good things we have in life, or thinking if you're going through a rough time, thinking where you're headed next. You know, it's a time for self-evaluation, mental health, self-care, and it's a time that is very needed in today's society. We tend to have our schedules full. We don't make time for ourselves. Whether it's the only time that we make for ourselves is maybe taking a shower, and sometimes we have our kids in the other shower or
Yeah.
next to us, or
Banging on the door.
yeah, exactly. So it's that time. So always think that people at the lounge are equals. It doesn't matter whether you're a Hollywood actor, like it happened to my co-host. He met, we all remember him as Kevin's dad in Home Alone. He remember him from, I think it was The Sopranos. And he was like, "Oh, this guy was sitting next to me. I was talking next to him, and he looked very familiar, but I didn't know his name. He just looked familiar." So whether you're a Hollywood actor or it's your neighbor, or it's, your community leader, or it's your friend, and we're all equal. I think a big thing, it's dress nice, put some clothes on that make you feel good. That shirt that makes you feel skinny or makes you feel younger, wear it, and take yourself to the lounge and allow yourself some time. There's some to finish off, there's some kind of like ethics or some rules that are not written in stone, that is not set in stone, but we all need to follow, and we're just going to go over it very quick. One of them is, to your cigar is your cigar, that's private. You don't put it in your mouth until you pay for it, and you cut it. And if nowadays, if with the COVID pandemic, you want to bring your own cutter or buy your own cutter, whether it's a disposable one, whether it's one that's $2 and or it's one that's $50, you want to bring your own cutter. You want to bring your own lighter. It's good to have your own lighter. Licking the cigar, that's a myth. It's not going to make the cigar tastier. Humidity is the enemy of the cigar. The cigars are dried because of a reason, and it's for better combustion. So licking the cigar will take off the combustion element from your cigar. Another thing is smelling the cigars. when you're in the humidor, you don't want to smell any cigars that it's not going to make the cigar better. It's when you light the cigar and you do the retrohale, that's really where you use your nose on the cigar. But another thing that I would say is respect. Everybody's equal. Another thing that I would say is be respectful and mindful. If the lounge doesn't allow you to bring cigars from home, or if you're bringing one from home, buy one to support your local store. Buy one, and then you can smoke one or two in the lounge, and enjoy yourself. I think that's the main rule. Enjoy yourself and ask questions. Questions are good at a cigar lounge.
That's great. Some great advice, man. I'm really personally very happy that you came on, personally, that we got a chance to talk tonight, because I'm really just loving all the tips and learned a lot. And also just the understanding of that almost brotherhood of someone else that smokes a cigar is very cool. So thank you again for being here. We'll definitely be in touch and see if maybe we could do a virtual cigar night at some point. I think that's a great idea. And for that, I'm just going to go ahead and end it all up tonight, saying once more, Brock, our thoughts are with you. Sergio, thank you very much for being here.
Salud.
I'm a dad, that's what I do.